various views, and let's put some of those now to Conservative MP and Crime and Policing Minister Chris Philp, who joins me. Thank you for joining us on the show. One question for you initially. If the young people who were caught committing these crimes, daubing buildings with graffiti, smashing bus shelters, if they refuse to tidy them up, what happens to them? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Well, if they refuse to comply with the immediate restorative justice process, so it's called an out-of-court disposal, then ordinary criminal prosecution is available. In the example you just gave, daubing graffiti or smashing up a bus stop, that is, of course, criminal damage, which is a criminal offence. So if they don't accept the restorative justice process, then criminal prosecution will follow in the normal way.
If they do agree to take down the graffiti, repair the bus shelter or whatever, who supervises them?
Well, we're providing funding for the police to police all of this in the first instance, but then
So
it will
we'll have
get organised via the.
police officers watching young men.
No.
Oh, sorry.
I was about to go on to say this sort of thing is then supervised by the probation service.
So it would be probation. And how are we staffed on probation? Do we have enough people there? It's going to take more, I would imagine, more personnel, isn't it?
Well, I think we're hiring more staff in that area. We're also hiring, of course, more police, and we're on track by the end of this month, just a few days' time, to have more police than we've ever had at any time in this country's history.
Yes, that's after the numbers dropped, of course. We need to make that point.
That's right, because, of course, the last Labour government left the country bankrupt. The previous peak number was in 2010. It was about 145,000. And we are on track to hit about 149,000 by the end of this month. The figures will get confirmed in a few weeks.
But in 2019, it was 123,000, wasn't it? So under the Conservatives, the Conservatives, you've taken it down a lot.
Because of the awful financial mess Labour left behind, and we're now, thanks to the investment being made, we're going to have more police than we've ever had before, including about 4,000 more police than we had back in 2010, so record numbers. And we expect them to deal, of course, with serious high-harm crime, but we also expect them to deal with antisocial behaviour, because the public expect to be able to walk down their road or visit their high street or go to their local park without feeling any sense of fear or intimidation. And that's why antisocial behaviour is very important. OK,
so how many more probation officers is the country going to hire?
Well, that's my colleagues in the Ministry of Justice are responsible for that. I think I saw some figures recently saying they were hiring 2,000 extra, but I'm speaking from memory, so please don't hold me to that.
Would that be enough for a nationwide initiative in which we're going to watch people taking graffiti off walls and repairing broken bus shelters? Doesn't seem like a lot, does it?
Well, of course, the idea is to be preventative and to stop it happening in the first place. So the hotspot patrolling that we're talking about in this plan will provide funding to have extra police officers and actually also council officers patrolling identified hotspots. And the idea of that is to prevent the antisocial behaviour happening in the first place, as well, of course, as dealing with the consequences if it does happen. So really, what we're aiming for here is prevention, because the public expect that the antisocial behaviour is prevented in the first place. People should be able to walk down their high street or visit their local park without any sense of fear. And that's why ASB is an important issue.
Just lastly on this aspect of this conversation, it says communities will be given a say in the punishment offenders face. How do you know communities want to have a say?
Well, I think communities do want to have an input in the way that policing works. Well, I mean, certainly speaking as a constituency MP in South London, in Croydon, most people I talk to do have views on this. And actually, these issues around...
And they want to say how people pick up litter or repair bus shelters, yeah?
I think people do have views on this. And actually, having elected police and crime commissioners, which we've had for the last 10 years now, does provide a good way for local opinions to get heard, because police and crime commissioners are responsive to their local communities, and I think have been very successful. And actually, when you talk to the public, antisocial behaviour is one of the things that gets raised the most often in a criminal justice context, because people, although it has thankfully reports of ASB have fallen in recent years, it is probably the most common form of disorder that the average member of the public experiences and encounters, and that's why we do take it very seriously, as well as the high harm crimes as well.
So it would appear we're going to get tough on people who daub graffiti or smash bus shelters, but meanwhile I read at least 1,000 sex offenders have avoided criminal records over the past 2 years by apologising to their victims. These are called community resolutions. 1,064 cases in 2021 and 2022, including some involving the rape of children. So under your government, you're going to get very tough on graffiti, but not on child rape. How do you explain that?
Well, no, I don't accept the characterisation of our approach to serious sexual offences.
I'm sure.
Well, I've seen the report on things on the front page of today's Daily Mail. I've seen the police quotes in that saying that where these community resolutions were used, it was with the victim at the victim's request or with their consent. But we do take these offences extremely seriously. We've recently changed the law to make sure rapists spend longer in prison, something which Labour extraordinarily voted against. We're running a particular project called Operation Soteria, designed to increase rape conviction rates, which have in the past been too low. Those now are thankfully increasing. The average sentence for rape has gone up under this government from, roughly speaking, 8 years to 10 years. So there is a huge amount of work going on to prosecute serious sexual offences and get convictions, and then make sure the perpetrators spend longer in prison.
Well, that seems to be contrary to the Baroness Casey report, which I'm sure you read in detail last week. One officer telling Baroness Casey, rape detection rates are so low, quotes, you may as well say it's legal in London. Rather different.
Well, as I said a moment ago, rape conviction rates have been too low. That is the blunt truth, and that is why Operation Soteria has been kicked off a couple of years ago, which is a project to significantly increase rape conviction rates. The target, we're on track to double rape conviction rates, and I think as of September last year they'd gone up by about 50%. We're also looking to recruit and train more specialist officers who are trained in rape and serious sexual offences to further increase the charge and conviction rate. I would accept it has been too low. The charge rate has definitely been too low, and that's why these investments are being made to increase it, and why we want to put perpetrators who are convicted in prison for longer and keep them in prison for longer. All right, something Labour extraordinarily voted against.
All right. Well, I think the voters will make their mind up about Conservatives and law and order, and possibly in 12 or 18 months' time. We're talking about the Baroness Casey report. Let's talk a little bit now about Dame Rachel de Souza, with whom I'm going to be speaking later on, Minister. And we learn that police are strip-searching children as young as 8. Your level of comfort with that?
Well, I'm going to study Rachel's report very, very carefully. I'm concerned by the reports I've seen of it. It's important. So just to give the context, the reason that people sometimes get, adults and children, sometimes get strip searched is because drug dealers often coercively get people to hide drugs in intimate body cavities. And where they get young people to do that, often it's coercive, often those young people are being exploited. And it's vital that we identify that exploitation so the young people concerned can be safeguarded. Sometimes the only way of doing that is to search an intimate body cavity. When that happens, it's vital that it's done according to the codes of practice. And Dame Rachel's report identifies occasions when that is not happening. That deeply concerns me, and I'm certainly going to be taking that up with the policing community to make sure those codes of practice are being followed. In about half the cases, there is further action. Something is found. On average, there are about 2 a day of these searches taking place. And I think 95% of the searches are on males, 75% are on people who are aged 16 or 17. But it is vital that it's done properly, and I'm deeply concerned about what Dame Rachel found, and I will be following it up.
Last couple of points, Minister. Rishi Sunak will be urged today by Simon Hoare, Chairman of the Commons Northern Ireland Committee, to amend that immigration bill to make it humane as well as tough. This is legislation the controversial legislation, these routes would be created in tandem with other measures in the illegal immigration bill. Are you ready to listen to what Simon Hoare has been talking about?
Well, of course, we already have a lot of safe and legal routes. We've brought 23,000 people or more over from Afghanistan legally. That's more legal entrance than any other European country. We've had, I think, over 200,000 people now from Ukraine, 25,000 people we brought over here safely and legally
those
from
are
Syria
established programs,
and surrounding
aren't they?
countries. They are, that's right.
So Hong Kong,
the point I'm making,
I get
Hong Kong
those.
as well.
Yes, I get those.
Yeah, so the point I'm making is we do have established safe and legal routes. We've got refugee family reunion as well. So this country, the UK, has a lot of safe and legal routes established already. In terms of creating more, my own view is that we should fix the illegal immigration problem first, stop the boats, as the Prime Minister has committed, and then we can add in these additional safe and legal routes in addition to the ones that we have already. But we have a very, very good track record in this country of providing safe and legal routes. You've just listed some of them off: Hong Kong, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Syria. We can be proud of our track record on safe and legal routes. We need to stop the illegal immigration.
So you're not ready yet to listen to other routes being established from countries. I choose, just as Syria, just to choose one at random.
Well, we've brought in 25,000 people from Syria since 2015. So I think the government is willing to establish new safe and legal routes. That is the express commitment. But I think in terms of sequencing, we've got to fix the illegal immigration problem first.
Lastly, noting that you were Kwasi Kwarteng's number 2 at the Treasury, is Mr Kwarteng worth £10,000 a day?
Well, listen, I would consider Kwasi a friend, but I don't think I'd be coughing up £10,000 for the pleasure of his views.
What do we make of the some of your colleagues who've been caught in this sting, where I stress they're not doing anything illegal here, but one might debate the morality of making themselves available for these sums of money? Of course, Matt Hancock and Sir Graham Brady are others.
Well, I thought it was a pretty unedifying spectacle, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Parliament sets these rules. There are rules around transparency. So had those interviews or those offers or whatever you want to call it been genuine, it would have all have been publicly disclosed for the media and the public to look at. So I think that's important. I think secondly, Parliament has recently tightened up the rules, basically prohibiting paid lobbying, which is important as well. Beyond that, I think you have to look at, there's a number of different situations. So there are some MPs like Maria Caulfield, who was a nurse before becoming an MP, who does shift work as a nurse. Other people do work on like family businesses or on a family farm, that kind of thing. So there are quite a few shades of grey here. But I found those videos, I must be honest, a pretty unedifying spectacle.
Grateful for your time. Conservative MP, Crime and Policing Minister Chris Philp appearing here on LBC 1 minute after 8. Let's get the latest headlines from Holly Harris.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom.